Have you ever stopped to think about how a plane can fly level around a giant curve? Or, why hurricanes spin one way in the north and the opposite way in the south? Well, the answers are all tied up in this invisible geometry that basically runs our entire world. Today, we're going to dive into why our world isn't just some flat map, but a living, breathing, volumetric sphere.
Okay, so let's just frame the core idea right here. On the left, you've got a flat surface. It has area, sure, but there's no inside. It can't really hold anything. But a sphere, a volumetric sphere, is a totally different beast. It's a container. It has an interior. It's got layers. And it's what holds all of life, our oceans, our air, everything. This one idea, this shift from surface to volume, is the key to, well, everything.
So where can we actually see the evidence for this? Well, let's start by just looking up. The clues are right there, painted across the sky by airplanes and the weather itself.
This is such a great question because it gets right to the point, right? If we're on a big ball, shouldn't pilots be constantly pointing the nose of the plane down to hug the curve? You'd think so, but the secret is actually way cooler. It's built right into the physics of flight.
Here's the key. For a pilot, flying level doesn't mean flying in a dead straight line through space. It just means the plane's lift is always pushing straight up, exactly opposite to the local pull of gravity. The plane's own instruments take care of this automatically, constantly figuring out which way is up versus down at any given moment.
And this is the brilliant part. Because gravity is always pulling toward the center of the Earth, the direction of down is actually changing all the time as you fly. So just by flying level, the plane is naturally, automatically tracing the curve of the planet. No constant nose dipping needed. The physics does all the heavy lifting.
And it's not just planes. Look at the clouds. This is such a cool way to think about it. We tend to see weather as a local thing. Is it raining here? But when you see it from a distance, clouds and storms are like these massive brushstrokes that are literally tracing the spherical shape of our atmosphere. And if you ever noticed this, hurricanes in the northern hemisphere always spin counterclockwise, but in the southern hemisphere, they spin clockwise. That's not a coincidence. That's the Coriolis effect, and it is direct, visible proof that we live on a rotating sphere. The planet's spin literally deflects these huge weather systems into those classic spiral patterns. This just plain couldn't happen on a flat spinning disk. You absolutely need a three-dimensional rotating ball for this to work.
So this leads us to an even bigger idea. A sphere isn't just a shape, it's a container. The very physics that makes our world work depends on it being an enclosed system.
This quote here seems so simple, but it's actually incredibly profound. Just think about it for a second. Without an inside, without volume, what would hold our atmosphere? What would keep the oceans from just flying off into space? You need that central point of gravity pulling everything inward, creating a container for life. And because of that containment, we get these beautiful layers. The Earth's central gravity pulls the atmosphere down, creating this perfect pressure balance called hydrostatic equilibrium. That's what lets our atmosphere settle into these distinct layers you see here, from the troposphere where we live and breathe, all the way up to where the satellites fly. You just can't get this kind of layering on a flat surface. It's physically impossible.
And this idea of containment goes way, way deeper, right down to the very core of our planet. Deep inside, the swirling of molten iron acts like a gigantic engine, a geodynamo, and it generates an invisible shield that is absolutely crucial for all of us.
And this planetary engine creates this incredible three-dimensional bubble around us called the magnetosphere. It's a direct result of having a rotating, volumetric planet. And it's this shield that protects our atmosphere from being blasted away by the sun. A flat disk just couldn't power an engine like this.
Okay, so let's zoom way out now and look at the proof that's constantly circling over our heads. This is where this whole geometric idea becomes a real, practical part of our daily lives.
Just think about it. Every single satellite up there, the ones that bring us our TV, our weather forecasts, our communications, they all follow these perfectly predictable paths. And those paths are calculated using laws of physics that only work if you assume there's a massive spherical object at the center pulling on them. Their very existence is a non-stop proof of the geometry. All right, the next time you pull out your phone for directions, I want you to remember this number, 4. Your phone has to lock onto at least 4 different satellites to figure out where you are. And what it's doing with the signals from those 4 satellites is just mind-blowing. So get this. Your phone isn't just finding you on a flat map. No way. It's solving for your precise location, your latitude, your longitude, and your altitude in a fully three-dimensional spherical world. But here's the part that is just wild.
It's also making tiny, tiny corrections based on Einstein's theory of relativity, because time literally moves a fraction of a second faster for the satellites in orbit than it does for us down here.
Let that sink in for a minute. The GPS in your pocket, a technology millions of us use every single day without a second thought, it only works because its core programming assumes we're on a sphere, operating under the laws of relativity. That little blue dot on your screen is a constant, practical, real-time confirmation of the geometry of our world.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've looked at all these different pieces, but they're not separate proofs. They're all threads of the same fabric, weaving together one single, consistent, interlocking reality. When you step back and look at the whole picture, it's not just one thing, it's everything. Commercial flight paths, global weather, the magnetic field, ocean currents, GPS, the simple curve of the horizon, they all independently operate on the exact same geometric principle that we live on a sphere. The fact that all these different systems work together in perfect harmony is the ultimate proof.
And this, right here, is why all of this really matters. Seeing our world as a volumetric sphere isn't just some abstract science lesson. It lets us appreciate the incredible, beautiful harmony of forces that make our planet a living, breathing home. It's a vessel, a container, that protects and sustains everything we've ever known as it moves through space. It really is the geometry of our reality.